You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Force 13 live coverage continues on Hurricane Ida, continuing towards the northwest over the Gulf of Mexico. We're handing over now. My name was Nathan Foy, and I'm finishing off here as we've now got Tim in place. We just had to take an extra few moments there. Tim, you're with us right now. How are you?
I'm doing good, Nathan. Thanks to the viewers who have been tuning in for these last 8 or 9 hours with the main team. For those who don't know me on air, my name is Timothy Ringa. I'm going to be taking you guys through the next 4 hours of coverage, as Nathan has magnificently guided this team through what has been a very interesting day with Hurricane Ida. So I'm ready for the handoff if you are, Nathan.
Yeah, am I okay to press my stop button?
Let's see here. I am hot. You should be good to go.
Alright, you don't often hear that on air, but I am pressing my stop button. I'll be back on the air at some point tomorrow when the storm nears its landfall. Over to Tim. When the storm nears its landfall. Over to Tim.
Yeah, we'll just take a minute here, make sure the transition does go all the way over here before...
It looks like it has.
All right, there we go. All right, handoff is complete. Let's get a little bit of an intro.
The eyes only starting to open up now, and it's almost pinhole like.
Jesus, its eyes really organizing now. It's getting real shape now.
It's nearly got a complete eye wall.
Well, its eye wall has been complete all the time, but its eye was just ragged.
I mean, on the vapor, it's nearly got dark red all around. It's just the northern half to fill in fully.
Yeah.
If it's not a cat-free now, it would be very, very soon.
Yeah.
Give me a sec, viewers. Still trying to get a few things in place. I had to rush a few things to completion here, so I'm still trying to get a few other items in place. But good evening, guys. This is Force 13 live with our continuing coverage here on Hurricane Ida. The team this hour, as you've been hearing them in the background, is Alex, Joey, Jonesy, Uxinator, and Xavier. Which Xavier, you're gonna be pulling the graveyard shift with this team at midnight Eastern time, 4Z?
Yepers.
All right, and looks like we might have.
That will be, of course, 4-hour shift until 4 a.m. my time, so 3 a.m. Central Time.
Right. And again, always for the viewers, if you do have any questions for the team, you can tag us at Force13, all in text. If I do sound a little bit rusty, that's because I am. I haven't sat in this studio chair in about 4 or 6 months. Had to take some time off due to personal issues, lost a couple family members. But I can say it is great to be back in this chair. So we do have the rapid scan imagery here from College of DuPage, the sandwich imagery. And yeah, gentlemen, that eye looks like it is starting to come out. Eye temperature probably getting back down into those -10s, maybe near 0. We'll see if we can get some radar going here as well. And for the viewers, if you have any storm observations, even if you're far away, you can send them here in the chat, or you can send them over to our Twitter handle at @Force13. And we do have some questions coming in. I'm pretty sure you guys will want to take some of these. We have a question. When and where is the loop current supposed to take place? And another question, can you get the eye temps now that the eye is visible? Again, I'll hand that off to this team here to see if they can answer a couple of those questions.
First off, I want to take a note that the eye now looks smaller than it did before. That is to say,
It's definitely contracted quite a bit.
And when it contracts, it makes it spin faster. So it's like breathing in and out, in and out, in and out, faster and faster. That's more or less what it's been doing.
And something to note, and I will actually get this up here on the screen. We are. I lost my train of thought there. There's one for the blooper already. We do have some radar there out of New Orleans. You can see some of those outer bands starting to show up there on the radar from New Orleans. Again, this storm is still 400 or 500 miles away, but you can see some of those outer bands starting to creep in onto the New Orleans radar.
And of course, those bands are going to get closer as we head further in. This storm is not going to be going anywhere harmlessly, of course. This is going to continue going toward the northwest. And of course, landfall is expected tomorrow evening at the current track of things. So definitely final preparations need to be rushed to completion. I know the traffic is backed up on I-10 as evacuations do commence. So good to see that people are heeding those evacuation orders. But of course, if you are planning to stay and ride out the storm, of course, if you don't have final preparations made by now, you're running out of time because those conditions are only going to deteriorate from here on out.
And I guess some of my team pointing out that I got gifts on my bottom bar. I think I got those fixed. If not, I will get those fixed right quick and we'll get the right information on the bottom bar there. We do have one question coming in. How is Recon doing? You guys can answer that question while I get this bottom bar fixed. Not sure how that happened, but I'm going to get that resolved.
As in regards to Recon for Ida, we don't know yet. It'll come out when it comes out.
Actually,
yep.
Tropical Tidbits has shown that the Recon for Ida has taken off.
So it's taken off now. It's good stuff.
Looks like
it'll be in there in an hour's time, I would say.
Also, we have notes for the temperature of the eye. We're getting readings of 0.9 degrees Celsius.
That's in the positives.
Yeah, positive.
So the eye might be out again. At least warm.
Yeah, and this is before it gets into those favorable conditions.
When it gets into those most favorable conditions, that hot water eddy, it will continue going into favorable conditions, or it'll keep being in favorable conditions. So once it's out of it, it's going to go into ocean surface temperature that is 30, 31, and pockets 32 degrees Celsius. And this is the hottest water around in the Atlantic Basin right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, indeed. And those conditions are really going to be set in stone. These are not going to be going away, and there's really nothing that is going to be hindering Ida's continued intensification, except for really itself in the event ILO replacement cycles come in. And of course, that doesn't really appear to be something that's going to be coming, at least for now, at least.
Yeah.
Also, according to some the 11 a.m. advisory guidelines, the track shifted 30 miles east. No. The recent guidelines have shown that it's tracked 30 miles east.
Off the center.
Yep, and just such a shift could mean worst case wind and surge impacts for New Orleans if it continues to track more north than west.
If it keeps doing that, which it has done, at least over the past day or so, it has continuously tracked east of the center line, and they've had to keep making adjustments to it, very micro adjustments. But, and I believe in an hour's time, a new cone will come out, and it will likely be adjusted to the east again.
And we will have that information on that new cone at the top of the hour when the National Hurricane Center does issue the 5 o'clock advisory. I believe that will be a full advisory with an update on all the watches and warnings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And we do have some other questions coming in. Someone asking how cold is Ida's cloud tops. Just looking at it visually, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of them on that southwestern side are probably pushing, what, minus 70, 75 in some spots?
Yep, that's definitely what it seems like.
And we are seeing that eye coming back out, just taking a quick look at it. And I'm getting an eye temperature of 5 degrees Celsius, so that eye is starting to try to come back out and warm on the last few frames there.
And I think when it does come out, and that will be it, it'll be out. So well.
And we do have some asking, did Nora make landfall? I'm not sure if the NHC has said anything on that just yet. But
I don't believe it has made landfall or will make it, at least in the short period of time soon. It has very closely skirted the cloak.
If I'm really honest, its eye looks halfway on land. So
yeah, but it has to be fully on land to be
halfway on land is how we declare landfall, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Also, I do want to break in and sorry for disrupting about Nora, but I think this is pretty important. So more readings have come in for the eye wall, and now it's well into the positives based on what we're getting now with a 4.9 degrees Celsius temperatures getting picked up from the eye in Ida.
And we will take a look at Nora here right quick. As soon as I get the satellite imagery pulled up, I wasn't expecting session on Nora to come up. It just goes show how ill prepared I've been trying to get all this together. Throw the satellite imagery back up there on New Orleans for a second. Just another look at some of those rain bands coming in to the New Orleans area out ahead of where Ida is at. And we can take a quick look at Nora, which there's how it looks there down in the Baja California area of Mexico. Looking at it right now, compared to where the NHC had it at earlier last night, it had it going all the way up through the Gulf of California, getting into the northern states of Mexico. It doesn't look like it's actually going to be able to do that this time.
Yeah, Nora's been interesting from the fact that it's an extremely large tropical cyclone to begin with. Its wind field is relatively massive. And there's been quite a bit of uncertainty as to what the actual forecast is, considering the fact that the National Hurricane Center has really gone above pretty much every other model. And the forecast in general is uncertain just because of how much land interaction that there's forecast to be, especially as it gets into the Gulf of California. It's very rare that you see tropical cyclones go that far up the Gulf of California, because by then they're usually remnant lows, or they make landfall early on because, of course, it's such a thin strip of water there. So the fact that it's going to go up the amount it is such an amazing feat on itself.
I think the last time we had any tropical cyclone related item
significantly hindered by this very close past the land, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last time we had anything of a tropical cyclone related item in the Gulf of California, I think it was at 19E or something like that a couple years ago.
Yeah, been quite a bit of time.
All right, and we're going to throw it back over to the New Orleans radar so we can get the Ida imagery back up again. There is how Ida's looking now that we've looked at Nora. Again, if you guys do have any questions for the team, you can tag us all Force 13 in text as our continuing coverage on Hurricane Ida continues at this time. Any other thoughts from our team at the moment? Because I still have a few things that I'm still trying to work out on my end here.
Oh shoot, I thought I was unmuted. I wanted to point out as well that the temperatures, they're now for the and Ida, they're now at up to 6 degrees Celsius.
That's definitely very concerning.
And also, I do want to mention that the storm has gotten extremely big, and that I think the eye has gotten smaller.
Well, it's only just coming out the eye, but it's a rapidly warming eye.
Yeah.
If it stays small, that would be a concern. An open but small eye would be quite concerning.
Looking at the reconnaissance data on Nora, since that is coming in right now, pressures were down to about 980 millibars extrapolated, with flight levels right at minimal hurricane threshold. So Nora definitely still hanging on to some characteristics of being a hurricane with its current extrapolated pressure and winds. However, it is starting to graze the Mexico coastline, so we will start seeing some weakening on that here in a few minutes. And we do
have to break in.
Yeah, go for it.
So, according to one of our cyclone analysts, Thomas Schwent, 6 minutes ago, or maybe 7 now, Nora made landfall.
Alright, we will switch back over the New Orleans radar, and we will get that satellite imagery back up for the viewer so they can see that. So, as of about 10 minutes ago, Force 13 analysis, Hurricane Nora has made landfall just on the western coast of Mexico. I'm not entirely sure the exact location, that we'll have to see where the landfall location for that is. But yeah, Nora making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane with 80 mile an hour winds by Force 13 analysis and a pressure of 977 millibars. That is the latest on Nora. Now, I'm not sure if the forecast has it going back out over open water or if it's going to continue skirting the coastline. What's the team have for that information?
Let's see, hold on, just getting it up now. Okay, so it does seem as if Nora will continue paralleling the coast, but it will probably move back out to open waters, like its center will move over water, and the National Hurricane Center, checking their forecast advisory now, I believe they still do have their peak of 90 miles per hour, if I'm not mistaken. So that is for Hurricane Nora in the Eastern Pacific.
Yep, and I do want to also mention now as well, along with the landfall of Nora, the eye temperature of Ida has increased to 7.4 degrees Celsius. Which
it's unfortunate that the eye is rapidly warming right as it's about to tap into that eddy in the next couple hours.
Eddy, the deepest ocean heat content in the entire Atlantic basin, and after that heat eddy is 31, 32 Celsius water.
And it's looking the best it's ever had as well.
It's really concerning right now, actually. If you have not evacuated and you are in a mandatory or a evacuation area recommendation, please evacuate.
Yep.
Immediately.
And also, the NWS Weather Protection Center for day 2 has kept the high risk in Louisiana, and now I believe it's now in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette, I believe. Maybe Lafayette's in the moderate. I'm not sure. But for excessive rainfall, which means flooding, not something you want to see.
No, it's not. And this just kind of gives you some context of just how big the influence of Ida is. We're now over on the Tampa Bay radar, and you can see some of the outer bands from Ida influencing all the way over to the Florida coastline, Tampa down to Cape Coral, getting some very heavy rains, prompting some special marine warnings in that area. So you can see just the rain influence of Ida, of how incredible it is. Obviously, the center's way out here in the open Gulf. You got the edge of New Orleans up there in the northwest, top left part of the screen. And this is all the rain that's coming off the outer bands of Ida. So this storm definitely packing a considerable punch with just the rain influence that it has.
Yep. And I also want to quickly mention that something from, I believe, the Louisiana governor, where he said about the length of the storm itself, or the size of the storm, and he said that it could be 300 miles long. And for reference, 300 miles, my commute to Gainesville from Tampa is about 90 or 100 miles. So it's basically from Tampa to Gainesville times 3 for reference, which is a very large distance. And it's not something to be taken lightly at all.
No, it's not. And just continuing down some of the radars, which this is a radar I wish we would have had yesterday when Ida was down here by the coast of Cuba. But the Key West radar is now back up and running. They had some technical issues with it. But you can even see just the southern outflow still extending back down into the southern part of Florida, across Key West, and across the northern part of Cuba. So the influence of Ida definitely very prevalent and very large, considering the main influence of Ida is almost due west of Cape Coral and North Point, Naples at this point, probably a good 300 to 400 miles away. So that gives you an idea of just how much convection this storm is kicking up at this time. And we have a couple questions still coming in. Obviously, this is the one that's been on everybody's mind since we know this storm's getting ready to hit that thermal loop and that eddy. Do we think Ida could be Category 5 before landfall?
It will highly depend on how it utilizes its environment.
It depends on how it takes hold of the environment ahead of it. It is a possibility, but you never know for certain. Intensity is very difficult to forecast.
Yeah, and that is probably one of the biggest concerns that we do have, is the fact of we just don't know what this storm is going to do. Obviously, there is, and it's been discussed many times throughout the week, of this thermal loop and eddy that is just to the southeast of the Louisiana coastline by a couple hundred miles, having some of the highest ocean heat content in the area outside of the Southwest Caribbean. And it's really a big question on when is it going to go over that loop? What is it going to do with that loop? Is it going to tap into that ocean heat content and ramp up? Or is it just going to go over and not intensify at all? That's probably the 3 or 4 biggest questions that not only do us at Force 13 have, but the entire weather community have. As if it taps into it and is able to intensify even more, what the NAC may be calling for a Cat 4 might be a much higher situation than what even they're anticipating.
Yeah, going to be something that we're going to have to watch. We really don't want this intensifying any further than it already has. But of course, you got to hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And as of right now, you definitely need to be treating this as it is. It will be a Category 4 when it makes that landfall.
Yes, and I know a couple of our team members have emphasized this, and it's definitely something I want to emphasize. If you are watching us down and around any part of the Louisiana coastline, New Orleans, up to Baton Rouge, Lafayette, in those areas. If you have not evacuated, your time is starting to run out on that. I know a lot of people have been heeding not only the mayor of New Orleans orders to try to evacuate if you can, but I know a lot of county and state governments and parish governments have been all encouraging to evacuate. And there was something that I had seen late last night and early this morning, and I'm not sure if you guys want to elaborate on it, but some of the local governments are thinking that they really did not have enough time to evacuate. You are talking almost 3-4 million people, and trying to get them out of harm's way of a 400 or 500 mile across storm.
I mean, unfortunately, that is the case because about 48 to 60, going on 72 hours ago, the models and the cone and everything was projecting a major into Texas, and you need 72 hours to issue evacuations and get contraflow and all that going. Then Ida got named, and the cone and models got shifted, and there was not enough time to get a contraflow going. And that's what it takes to do a full-blown mandatory evacuation. Now, some people were saying, oh, well, they had 11,500 National Guard troops. Why couldn't they do it? Well, people don't realize how quickly it takes to mobilize National Guard troops. Actually, people don't realize in general how long it takes to mobilize any kind of troop in general. So that's the reason why they weren't able to get a full-blown mandatory evacuation going. That's why only the areas outside the levee protection and in the marshes are in mandatory evacuation, and everyone else is under voluntary. This is not on the local government's fault at all for not issuing a full-blown mandatory evacuation. They just didn't have enough time. And also, the NHC wasn't really going aggressive in the forecasting until last night, early this morning. So that's also another thing.
All right, well, here's a fair question for you, Jonesy, because I know we've seen this with other storms before. Obviously, we had Zeta last year that went over New Orleans. Obviously, everybody starting to compare this to Katrina, which I don't think right now is an appropriate way to compare Ida to. But did we see some of these similar logistical issues with higher end storms that have impacted this area? Someone like, say Katrina, since that's the one that everybody's comparing this to. I thought we had logistical issues back in 2005 as well, didn't we?
I'd have to look in more on that, and I know people have been.
I remember it. We had that situation. Yeah, we had that situation as well because when Katrina first formed, the forecast of uncertainty was massive. You had the second landfall pretty much being anywhere between the western end of Louisiana and pretty much the Florida Panhandle, the Big Bend even as well. So there was a very large amount of uncertainty. We knew that there was going to be probably another hurricane landfall, but at the time it was only looking like a minimal landfall again. And there was just a whole bunch of uncertainty with it. And as it went into the Gulf, it went more south than what was initially anticipated, and that's where it found that rocket fuel, where it became a Category 5 that we all know today.
That makes sense. And that does make sense, even because I was actually looking at the infrastructure for the New Orleans area. Obviously, Interstate 10, Interstate 49 being the two major thoroughfares, and then you have some of the other minor highways that do connect through that area. Obviously, right now, if you are trying to evacuate, you want to be going either west or north of the cone of uncertainty. That takes you over towards the Belmont, Houston area. You can go northwest up towards the Shreveport area, or east over towards the Tallahassee area, over towards maybe, if you needed to, you could go into eastern Alabama, western Georgia to get out of harm's way. But rest assured, if you have not evacuated, or if you've not tried to find a way to evacuate, you've got maybe another day, and then your time's going to be pretty well ran out.
I do have bad news. According to Kay, our head moderator, he did mention that apparently Ida is now out.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention there.
Outside
go on.
Wait, it's not out?
This center of circulation with Hurricane Ida is now outside the NHC's cone of uncertainty. It's on the right-hand side of it.
Yep.
Really now, so Ida has tracked further east than the last forecast.
Yes.
And well, we did see
into even hotter water for the hot water area, which it will go into in a few hours' time.
And I mean, we did see something similar with Henri last weekend as well. So these storms going east out of the cone is just nothing new.
So with the tracking further east, now we're looking at what, maybe Biloxi, Mobile, possibly.
Oh yeah, they
entering
may well
into the uncertainty.
Yeah, they may well be getting more intense conditions than expected.
And we'll definitely see that cone here at the top of the hour when the NHC does release their 5 o'clock update. We will have that information when it becomes available.
I'm pretty sure that would, I guess, put the center of the storm heading towards the New Orleans area, I would say, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah, and we'll get the actual last NHC cone up here right quick as we're gonna go back over to the New Orleans. Actually, we're gonna go. We'll go back over to the New Orleans radar here just so we can see how some of these bands are starting to train into the area. Obviously, this is still well outside of radar range of getting Ida on radar, but you can still see some of those outer bands starting to trail in, and then we'll get the NHC cone up from the 11 a.m. advisory, and we'll get it up there, and we'll do a little bit of comparison as to what we see going on with Ida, as apparently Ida is moving further east out of the center of the cone, so that's going to be something that we're going to be discussing here before the top of the hour, before the NHC brings out their next advisory. And this was the cone that was issued on their intermediate advisory. So based on what you guys are seeing, so we're getting more confidence that this is going more east of the 1 p.m. cone, putting New Orleans more in the center of the crossfire.
Yeah. Yes, it does seem as though that the center circulation is tracking a little bit more closer towards potentially making a close pass to the western side of the New Orleans metro if this continues.
We do have the new advisory on Tropical Depression 10. It hasn't been upgraded. They state that the depression is still struggling while moving northward. So not many changes with that one.
That's all there needs to know about that.
Close.
As we continue to monitor primarily on Ida, which is tracking east of the cone of uncertainty, or the current cone of uncertainty from the NHC, which does put at risk, more at risk, New Orleans impacts, as well as Mississippi impacts and Alabama.
I'm gonna break in here. I don't know if anyone made mention of it, but our main focus has been on Ida. Tweet just went up on the 413 Twitter account, and our cyclone analyst team about 25 minutes ago made this call. We have called landfall on Nora in Mexico.
Yeah, we already.
Yeah, that was discussed.
I did not know that. I'm sorry. I did not know that. I was away from the computer at the time.
You're okay.
The tweet is up. If anyone in the chat wants to go see it, it is on our Twitter account.
So how far is it actually from the loop current?
That I'm not sure how far it is from there. But I was going to throw over to Ryan, as it looks like he has some of the models up. If you want to go over some of those, looks like you got the GFS model in front of you.
That's just the model from the last run. That was a wee while ago, 7 o'clock earlier. That's UK time.
So we're waiting for the 18Z run to come in, right?
Yes. No, this is the 18Z run.
Okay, give me a sec. We can start that run from the beginning, and we'll get this up so everybody can take a look at that.
Oh no, sorry. This is the 12Z run.
Okay,
this is the latest one.
Okay, we can use that for context for the viewers. Go for it.
It goes in this Southeast Louisiana. It's cap free, but that's the GFS. H4 is more focused on hurricanes. In particular, millions of dollars have been spent on this computer modeling. It comes in strong cap free, seemingly. Looks to be 949 millibar at landfall. However, this is the 12Z model run. And
I do want to bring
expect this to change.
Yeah, and I do want to bring up the point that the eye of this, like based on the radar data, the eye of this is huge, and that I don't think that's gonna be the case with Ida. I don't think
No, I don't.
big
Not
of an
right
eye.
now. I
It's
think
definitely
the eye
smaller.
might be smaller as it moves towards land.
Yeah, we'll
But
cut
the
back.
thing with
Yeah, we're gonna cut back over to the rapid scanner real quick. We'll come back to the models there, Ryan. But just taking a look at actually, you've got the excessive rainfall up, so we'll take a look at that before we throw it back over. But yeah, the eye looks like it came out in like the last 20 minutes, and looks like the convection's starting to cover that eye back up again a little bit.
Yeah, it's breathing in and out, as I would say. As it spins faster and faster, it breathes in and out, which covers the eye. Then I think at some point it will fully open and be open until right into landfall. But as in with the rainfall, this is, in my opinion, the secondary concern. Apart from the storm surge, would be the primary concern. The rain, 15 to 20 inches in Southeast Louisiana. That includes parts of New Orleans. And then a wider area, 10 to 15 inches. This is, of course, not including the storm surge. And then wider parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, 6 to 10 inches. Then right into all of Mississippi, more or less, 4 to 6 inches, and parts 6 to 10 inches. Into Tennessee, 4 to 6 inches. Into Kentucky, 4 to 6 inches, 6 to 10 in some parts. The rainfall is going to be a driving factor well into inland, and there is going to be a lot of flooding. A lot of people.
Hey,
a lot of flooding.
hey Ryan, just update that real quick because they did issue a new rainfall graphic. Yeah, they did because they updated the day 2 and day 3. Look up there now. West Virginia and Pennsylvania, there's some 6 to 10s up there, and more dots in Virginia as well.
Yeah, it's quite concerning now.
And that flooding. And that flooding concern is definitely going to be a big issue all the way up through these states. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we had that. Actually, it was earlier this week. We had that flash flood emergency in western Tennessee where they got about 17 inches of rain. I think a lot of it was primarily due to Fred when it came through the area. So a lot of the soil in this area is already really saturated. And then when you bring a very strong hurricane, probably by the time it gets into the Tennessee area, very moderate to high-end tropical storm with 60, 70 mile-an-hour winds. Not only do you have the flooding threat, but now you got those strong winds that could easily just topple trees over like it's nothing. And I can say I personally saw that with Matthew when we had heavy rain come through about 4 or 5 days before Matthew hit the North Carolina area in 2016. And we did have the flooding threat, but there was also a lot of power lines, trees down, trees uprooted due to the fact that the soil was already completely saturated. You throw another 15 inches of rain on top of it and 70 mile-an-hour winds, and next thing you know, you got road closures and rivers getting backlogged due to trees falling into it from them being uprooted. So definitely these kind of systems are not just a one-dimensional thing. It's not just the wind. It's not just the storm surge. It's not just the rain. It's a combination of all those elements together, and that does make these storms very dangerous overall.
And in concern about the wind, there will be life-threatening wind from this storm with possible devastating impacts across the southern portion of the southwest Louisiana. This is according to the National Hurricane Center and NOAA. Structural damage to sturdy buildings, some with complete roof and wall failures, with complete destruction of mobile homes. Do not shelter in a mobile home under any circumstances. damage greatly accentuated, large airborne projectiles, numerous large trees snapped and uprooted along with the fences and road signs blown away, many roads impassable with large debris and more within urban and heavily wooded places, many bridges, causeways, and access routes impassable with widespread power outages and communications. And when a strong hurricane comes into an area, power and communication outages may last for weeks. It takes a while to get fixed. Peak surge. This is the peak surge, but this will update at 5 o'clock Eastern time. It is expected to be 10 to 15 feet on the south coast, and then 7 to 11 feet for portions of 4 to 7 in Lake Pontchartrain, 4 to 7 in Mississippi, and into Mobile Bay 2 to 4 feet, Vermilion Bay 6 to 9 feet, Morgan City 6 to 9 feet. It's not good news at all.
No, it's not, Ryan. And the big concern with this, with Ida going further east on the cone, is obviously in the north, these storms rotate counterclockwise, or anticyclonic, as some people would call it. What that's going to do is the eastern facing areas, and this is a question that just came up in the chat, which is why I'm addressing this. The eastern facing side of Louisiana, from the mouth of the Mississippi River up through Lake Pontchartrain, going over towards Ocean Springs and maybe towards the Mississippi-Alabama border, that area is going to have all that water thrown into the Louisiana coastline and into Lake Pontchartrain due to the fact that the northwestern eastern side, when it rotates around itself, is going to pull all that into that area. And that is probably one of the big issues we have with Ida moving now further east on the cone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and also with Ida moving further east on the cone, this also puts it into even warmer water from the hot water eddy, and which it will go over, I would say, in a number of hours' time. And after it goes into that, it's going to go into 30 degree, 31 degree, and in some pockets 32 degrees Celsius water, of which is shallow. And then when it makes landfall on land, this is a swampy marshland. This isn't going to affect it that much as it goes inland until it's well inland. So this may well maintain, its status as a strong hurricane well inland.
Yeah, and that was a kind of a question that came up from one of our viewers, Ninja Warrior, asking if the track shifted east, could that alone increase the storm surge on the east-facing coast of Louisiana and the Mississippi coast? That's why I had brought that up. That's probably going to be something that will be looked at. It will be a more prevalent threat with the more it's going further east. I have some questions about recon, whether or not they're back in there. I'm taking a quick look. Looks like NOAA 2 has just left from Florida, so they will be en route into the storm. And AF 303 looks like they may be just taking off as well. So we will have recon coming into the storm here just after the 5 o'clock advisory. So most of this information will be used for the 8 o'clock intermediate advisory when the NAC does bring it out.
Yeah. As of now, we are just waiting on the 5 o'clock advisory Eastern time of when we expect that the NHC will move its track east, as the system has went east of the official cone.
Yes, it has. And just take a look at the rapid scan imagery. Again, the eye kind of wobbling around on itself, contracting, kind of being like how a human lung would be, inhaling, exhaling. Looks like right now it's inhaling again, and we're starting to see that eye come back out a little bit on this rapid scan sandwich imagery. You can see the influence there of Ida reaching up to the New Orleans coastline. Has a really good outflow coming from the north, wrapping all the way around to the southeastern side. That is allowing the storm to breathe really well, and you can see just how much of an influence it has. The eastern edge being felt all the way into Florida, the western edge still well off the coastline, but it would stretch almost all the way to the western edge of Louisiana. If you, again, thank you for the viewers tuning in. If you guys do have any questions for us before the NHC advisory comes out in the next 10 to 15 minutes, now's the time to ask them. You can tag us at Force13, all in text. We will probably take a break at the top of the hour once the NHC information comes out, so our team can kind of go through the information, collect their thoughts, and we will give the interpretations on what the new information is going to be. Obviously, the shift on the east. I'm losing my train of thought. Another blooper there. The shift of the track that IDA is taking is obviously going to shift the cone further east. So we may see some watches and warnings get upgraded, and maybe see some new watches and warnings go in effect at the top of the hour. So that's mainly where we're at, is waiting to see what the NHC does.
And I think we might see a few get canceled. And also, I do want to note that it's possible that because it's shifting more east, it might avoid some of that where the absolute peak OHC is, which would actually be a good thing. Not a good thing for the storm, but yeah, honestly, I've noted this morning. This thing's been going more east than I think people have been anticipating. Now, I do think it's starting to go a bit more west, but yeah, been really going more east than I think the NHC has expected.
And we're gonna throw it back over to Ryan here, as it looks like he has.
Oh, wow.
Sure what that was, but looks like Ryan has the excessive rainfall outlook there on his screen, so we will get that thrown back up, and he can go over that.
This is the greatest flash flood risk over the next 3 days, and as you can see in southeast Louisiana, 50% risk of flash flooding, severe flash flooding. And that is because of this. We have 15 to 20 inches in some pockets for rainfall, 10 to 15 inches over a wider area. This is, of course, not including the storm surge. So this is rainfall that will be on top of the storm surge as well. So this is going to be even more flooding than would be if it was just storm surge on its own. And of course, this flooding rain continues well inland across the continental United States, with 4 to 6 inches, 6 to 10 inches in Mississippi, 4 to 6 Tennessee, 6 to 10, 4 to 6 in Kentucky, then 4 to 6, 6 to 10 all the way up in Virginia and West Virginia.
And Pennsylvania and Indiana as well.
Yeah, it's out of the map. But across the continental United States, really heavy rain over the coming days. Really heavy rain associated with this system. So if you live in a flood-prone area, in these areas where it's likely to flood, be prepared to move and even evacuate. Don't drive into any floodwater. You may not know how deep it is. Turn around, don't drown, as they say. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Ryan. We'll bring it back over to the rapid scan imagery here, as right now we are just in a wait-and-see moment with the National Hurricane Center, waiting to see what they are going to bring up for the 5 o'clock advisory, as it is just about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, so we're mainly just in a wait-and-see mode. Reconnaissance, obviously, just getting into their positions to get out into the storm. NOAA 2 getting ready to go in. Actually, they're starting to enter the northeastern corner of the storm. They've already started their mission. And looks like AF303 is still on the tarmac waiting to take off. So we will have them hopefully in the air very shortly.
We've got it out. It's out. Advisory is out. I'm going to bring it up right
now.
The
advisory is out, and the National Hurricane... Yes. National Hurricane Center has upgraded Ida to a category, was maintaining Ida as a category 2 storm with 105 mile an hour winds, pressure of 976 millibars. Get quick reaction from our team before we go to break at the top of the hour.
We do have an upgrade in watches and warning. The storm surge warning has been extended eastward to the Alabama-Florida border, including Mobile Bay.
All right, so that is the newest information. We will have All of that information updated here at the top of the hour. So right now the information that you see on the bottom bar is a little outdated, but we will get it updated at the top of the hour here very shortly. Again, Ida now at 105 miles an hour, pressure of 976 millibars.
That pressure is going to keep dropping. I'm actually surprised it's maintained the 105 mile an hour, but of course we do not have official wind data yet, as the recon planes are going into the storm. Well, NOAA 2 is going into the storm right now. NOAA 1 will be going into the storm later on, as it's due to take off from the runway shortly.
All right. And we are going to take a brief break here. We will come back just a little before the top of the hour. Again, this is continuing coverage on Hurricane Ida on Force 13. Stick around. We will be right back.
It's just kidding.
Okay, maybe not. It doesn't look like my ad information is working, so we will just fade the team out here for a minute here as we collect our thoughts with the team. Again, National Hurricane Center running with Category 2, 105 miles an hour, pressure of 976 millibars. Going to give the team a minute or two to regroup before we fade them back in, as this is continuing coverage here on Force 13. So let's fade the team back in, get their thoughts.
Yeah. This is a deeply concerning situation right now. Ida is maintaining intensity, or is it well in the way of strengthening right now. It is due to go over some really warm water, some really deep warm water very soon.
The NORA advisory is out. NORA Center is grazing the coast of Jalisco, Mexico, meaning I don't know if the NHC is calling an official landfall. 85 miles an hour, 977 millibars. The government of Mexico has upgraded the tropical storm warning and hurricane watch north of San Blas to Altata, Mexico, to a hurricane warning.
All right. Well, you guys have the floor for a couple minutes here. I'm going to try to get this bottom bar information updated with the 5 o'clock information. Again, for the viewers, if you guys have any question for the team while I'm working here in the background getting the information updated, you guys can tag the team at Force 13 and they will answer your questions. I'm going to be sitting here in the background for a couple minutes getting this information updated.
So, of course, we're looking at a slightly stronger storm at this point. 105 miles an hour is what we're now looking at. Still makes it a Category 2 hurricane, and we will see what happens when recon goes to it. Will they find a stronger storm than what it actually is? We will find out a lot of questions that are left to be answered as this now nears the 24-hour mark away from land. Still a Category 4 forecast from the National Hurricane Center, as it should, considering the fact that, of course, rapid intensification is going to be the theme here. So as of right now, they're forecasting 125 in the next 12 hours, so that would take it up to 5 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Central Time, and on 130 within the next 24-hour mark. So that is what we're looking at in terms of the intensification phase. So no raising of the peak or anything, and I'm still waiting to see if the National Hurricane Center updated the cone at this time.
I'm just gonna quickly cut in and say, according to the tropical discussion for NORA, it's the forecast initialization point. It says, and I quote, on the coast. They did mention it was grazing, but that says on the coast. So to me, that's, and looking at, on that cone, it is grazing the coast. So I think the NHC is calling just a brief landfall on NORA.
I regret to inform, but the cone on Ida has shifted eastwards, and all of New Orleans is pretty much in the cone now.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
That's the worst news we can hear.
All right, we will get that new cone up here right quick as I'm still.
I have it up already.
All right, we'll get that thrown over to you guys so you can continue discussing that as I work here in the background, get the information updated.
So yeah, we've
right.
seen a little bit of bad news.
All right, viewers should have it up though now, so you guys can keep having at it on discussing that cone.
With the cone of the 4 p.m. Central Time of Advisory 10, a maximum sustained winds are now of 105 miles an hour. Movement is going northwest at 16 miles an hour. It is forecasted to be a major by tonight and will landfall as a major by 1 o'clock tomorrow, East Central Time.
And yeah, that moved ahead because originally they were saying 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So, but I knew this. I knew this was speeding up yesterday, and around the 8 p.m. advisory last night, or 11 p.m. advisory, I was doing the math, and I was like, this has only 41 hours if it continues at the current pace. So this would be a tomorrow afternoon landfall. So I think that is definitely showing that it is going to be it's definitely going to be tomorrow afternoon, the landfall of Ida. Another thing that does worry me, and when it does start to turn north and northeastward, and we do see this, it does slow down a little bit. That's a little bit of a worrying, which could inflate the rainfall numbers.
Not really much for good news in terms of this cone. Still can't form making landfall.
The peak is only. The good news is the peak is down to 115 knots. Originally they were saying 120, but it's been that for a while. That hasn't changed. I have not seen the forecast advisories today, so where they tell about peaks and all that. So I knew last night when I went to sleep it was 120. Throughout, it looks like at 11 and then 5. Now the 5 p.m. full advisory is 115. So that's a good sign, but that could always change. The peak could always go back up to 120 knots or more.
Recon is slowly getting further into the center of Ida, which of course is good news. So we should be getting some information as of right now.
I got bad news. It's already encountered hurricane force winds quite far from the eye. I would say.
That flight levels, yeah. Not sure what the SFMRs are showing.
They have to make the winds have to make its way down to the surface.
All right, and also there's reading 2.
The structure is definitely improving right now. If I compare this to like 17Z, it's, I'd say right now looks way better. Yeah, it does look way better. And it's about to hit favorable loop current. And considering what Riken is finding already, and not even in the eye, this is only getting worse. Let's check how much. Yeah, 70 knot flight levels. Check the imagery again. Where is it? Measure scale. Yeah, looks like the burst is trying to wrap around the eye right now. If it fully wraps around, or if there's a new burst as well surrounding it, and it clears its eye, this thing is going to
Go off to the races.
Yeah,
they would say.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, this is not looking good.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Makes me concerned of what they could be finding at the center. This is the case of what we're seeing right now.
Yep. Key messages from the National Hurricane Center on Hurricane Ida. There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge inundation on Sunday on parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. The life-threatening inundation of 9 feet or greater above ground level is possible somewhere within the areas of Morgan City, Louisiana, to the coast of the Mississippi. Overtopping of local levees outside of hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system is possible where local inundation value interest rate warning area should be followed of advice given by the local officials. Ida is expected to be an extremely dangerous major hurricane when it reaches the coast of Louisiana. Hurricane enforcements are expected on Sunday in portions of the hurricane warning area along Louisiana, including metropolitan New Orleans, with potential catastrophic wind damage possible where the core of Ida moves onshore. Actions to protect life and property should be rushed to completion in the warning area. Damaging winds expected, especially in gusts, will spread inland and track the center of Ida of portions of southeastern Louisiana and southwestern Mississippi on Sunday night and early Monday. These winds will likely lead to widespread tree damage and power outages. Ida is likely to produce heavy rain Sunday into Monday across the central Gulf Coast, southeast Louisiana, coastal Mississippi, far southwestern Alabama, resulting in considerable flash flooding and urban flooding and significant river flooding impacts. As Ida moves inland, significant flooding impacts are possible across portions of the lower Mississippi, Tennessee, and Ohio valleys all through to Wednesday.
Yeah, some really serious stuff that we're seeing there, of course. Not something to be taken down lightly, and it's good that we've seen the preparation efforts that have been made, but of course, if you're